Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is March 20, 2022. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Robert M. French. Robert, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Cork in Ireland.
How
From the
cool
Rebel
is that?
City in Ireland.
How cool is that? Well, we have a commonality in reading Finnegan's Wake through Sweeney's Pharmacy, and it's always been a pleasure to talk with you and share knowledge. So we're going to dive right in. The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
Say that again, Jerry?
What is the best thing for a human being?
I'd say companionship. Being with other people. Being around other people.
That is a great answer. I love that. And the second question is, what's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you? Reading books. Oh, you lost your audio. We lost your audio.
You got it now?
Back on. Okay, so reading books, yeah.
Reading books is my favorite number one thing. And the reason I think it is, Jerry, is because if you use a computer, scan, go. Phone, scan, go. Quick, done. But with a book, you can take it. You can come back to that line again and again. And it's something about the hand, to the finger to the word, all the way up the arm into the brain, and it stays a little bit better. It's actually, I love it. And that's why I'm a huge fan of Moleskin. Yeah. So I write every day.
Nice.
Every single day. So I'm up now to whatever, I don't know what date it is now, and I just keep writing. And 9 times out of 10, Jerry, it's rubbish. You know, you wouldn't, nothing, you know. But it's something about finishing the day and recording your day and getting it all down. And it's just me. It might be old world, but it's just something that I like to do.
Journal writing is really important, and writing, the act of writing. Every interview I do, I take 5 to 10 pages of notes, and it is a very important act. And reading is good, but let's divert for a second, Robert, on reading. Did you become a reader because your parents told you to read? They read and it was an example, or on your own?
On my own, Jerry. And I did this on my own because years and years ago, we didn't have internet. We didn't have, you know, all the stuff that they have nowadays. So we had to rely on newspapers. We had to rely on books and magazines. And primarily for young people growing up, it would have been magazines. And we always had our own collection of magazines. And there would be swap meets. I don't know if they were ever called that, but there were swap meets of, you meet your friends and their kids. You'd be, here, you took that magazine, I took this material. And it would be like, oh, it was euphoric. It was absolutely unbelievable to do this. You'd arrive with your bunch of magazines in a bag and you'd pass out. The one thing though, and I don't know, is it a human thing or is it, what is it? But you'd never give away your favorite magazine.
No.
That always stayed. That stayed. It just didn't go. You always had that one. And even if somebody asked you, oh, do you have the Beano or whatever? Nope, sorry, I don't have it. But you would have it and you would never tell, you know. The downside about this now is I know an artist in Belfast. His name is PJ Holden. And he's a wonderful, wonderful artist. And PJ Holden is, he draws for 2000 AD. I don't know if you know this magazine. And it's Judge Dredd. I'm a big fan. Launched into it many, many years ago. I'm still a big fan today. And I think on the 26th of this month, there's a live broadcast of some, I don't know, they're making some live broadcast about it, but it's 45 years old, you know. But when we were looking at the magazine and we were looking through it, and you get all these stories and they move and they twist and they turn and they come. And it's magic. It's absolute magic. Your head is exploding when you're looking at this and You don't even care if there's words there. You just go, whoa, yes, that's it, that's it, that's it. And PJ is a wonderful, wonderful man. And I actually got a chance to meet him. And I met him in Cork, in the Rebel City in Cork. He came down for a big Comic Con about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And my son now, he's mad into comics. He loved it. He loved all this stuff. So I said, come on, come along. I was only going to take pictures, but he came along to see if we get comics. So we met PJ. Now, PJ drew Judge Dredd left, right, and center. But he also drew Judge Dredd blindfolded. All right? So
Wow.
imagine the scene, right? Big stand, Judge Dredd, PJ holding. So I bought PJ's book. He had a book of drawings, a beautiful book of drawings. I bought the book. Part of buying the book was there's a page at the back and it's blank. And PJ would offer, there were only about 50 books or something. So PJ would offer to draw something for you in the back of the book, make it absolutely unique. So
Wow.
I bought it and I said, this is for my son. And he signed it. He says, right, he said, little fella, what would you like? Now imagine, Judge Dredd everywhere. The guy draws Judge Dredd blindfolded, right? And my son is going, Spider-Man. No. Now, in fairness, Jerry, and I swear to God, PJ Holden, I have to put my hand up. He's just an absolute gentleman. I work with his brother in Dell, and I have to put my hand up. He's an absolute gentleman. He says, no problem. He says, I'll give it my best shot.
That was beautiful. Robert, I'm a big magazine person too, so I appreciate what you just said. But back to information, why do you think humans collect or gather information?
I think that's going back to when we were in way back many years ago, Jerry, when we were actually animals, in the woods or I don't know, forest, whatever thing. But as animals, we needed to store information to get a one-up on everyone else. So we needed to know things. And as we got used to getting spears and arrows and bows and arrows and stuff, we needed that information badly, absolutely crucially to survive. And it wasn't a case of how do you tie the rope onto the bow and sharpen the arrow to shoot the tiger or whatever. This was saving your life.
Yeah.
And that moved on then through the ages, and it became more and more and more and more and more. And now, of course, we now look at it and it's like it's taken the form of cyber warfare. It's taken the form of spying and listening in on phone calls and stuff like that. But humans need to do that to get a one-up on other people. But it's
amazing.
Also the thing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go on now, Jerry. Go on. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's amazing because I'm curious if you think this need or want to collect information, survival, is more innate in humans or more invented by humans? Were we born with it?
I think it's invented by humans. We weren't born with it. I don't think so. I think basic survival is you need food, you need water, you need shelter.
Yeah.
And as you move up, I don't know, Maslow's theory, whatever it is, you move up the scale, then you move up to, better things, and you eventually end up with higher spirits or whatever. But as a basic level, food, water, shelter, that's all we need to know to survive. We need nothing else. But as humans, we said, go a bit further. We need to go that tiny little bit further,
Yeah. Do thoughts create emotions?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Like I've been a big fan of this thing where you think yourself, this thing that says, oh, if you think something bad's going to happen, it will.
Yeah.
If you think that something good will happen, yeah, it might, or whatever, And then the big shock when it happens, you're like, oh my God, did I actually think that, But in actual fact, what you're doing is you're just creating an emotion in yourself to make yourself feel happy, to make you feel sad or whatever, or anything like that, to have an emotion. And as animals, as humans, human animals, we implore that, we love that, we do that, we just keep going. Today, I saw a bird in a tree and I was so happy.
Nice.
So that's it, that's good.
Robert, do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I would go with the happiness first and then the meaning after. Like if I'm enjoying something, Jerry, honestly, I swear to God, when I started reading this book, Portrait of an Artist, a Young Man, from Mr. Joyce, I thought, it's, just, and then you keep going, and then you keep going, and you keep going, and you're like, I feel not too bad. And the thing about books I found is when you say to yourself, well, I've had my cup of tea or maybe my dinner, and what will I do now? I'd love to go back to read. And that makes it that you want it. It makes you feel happy that you can go, this is something I'd like to do. You
Yeah.
don't have to read this because it's like, I don't know how many hundred years old or whatever. You don't have to go back and read it and say, yeah, this is going to make me a better person. I think it's not. But it's the joy and the thrill of those words coming into your brain and creating those pictures. And this is what it's about. It's about the creating of pictures and building these emotional memories that go around your brain again and again and again. Like, I don't know, have I got it right? We talked about this before now, Jerry.
Yeah.
Have we got it right in what he was thinking we were thinking? Are we thinking that's exactly what he wanted us to see? Because
Yeah.
as a writer, you have to convey that. You have to do that in such a way that the reader says, yeah, I understand. I know exactly. I got it.
Yeah.
But
But
if you
that's
don't get it, then you're lost.
once the artist creates their art, it's no longer theirs, it's the user. They can use it
Correct.
any way they want. But back to thinking, I don't know what I think until I fill in the blank.
No, I don't. I don't go with that one. No, I don't think so. And the reason I don't go with that is I'm a very logical person. I'm a very practical, logical person. I was a mechanic in the Navy for many years, so you have to be. It's a requirement. Um, you have to think things through. Like,
But I'm saying, yeah, but I'm saying, I don't know what I think until this is you saying that line. I don't know what I think. Robert says, I don't know what I think until you can't fill in the blank there.
um, I would say explore.
Explore. That's it. I don't know what I think until I explore. That's fine. Can humans think without language?
On a very, very basic level, Jerry, yes, I would agree. As I said to you, food, water, shelter,
Yeah.
not really that hard. So yeah, I'd
Yeah.
say they could.
So Chomsky says that a language is not just words, it's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. Robert, what do you do when language breaks down? When language doesn't work, what do you do?
Well, I think, Jerry, in today's world, you have a lot of things going on. You have a lot of, I don't know, can I use it on this video? Cancel culture.
Yeah.
You have a lot of um, wokeism. You have a lot of stuff going on now in these days. That means, and it's very simple. Like I encounter it every day when you're talking to younger people, very, very younger people, is you can't argue. You cannot get your point across as, look, this is my point. This is how I feel. Please take it, do whatever you want with it. That's how I feel. But they won't. They won't let you in. They won't. They'll button, they'll button, they'll button, they'll button. And it's about this thing that they have today is drive it home, drive it home, drive it home, drive it home. Keep going until you actually have no argument. You're just sitting there going, I don't even want to bother arguing with you, because you're just not letting me make my point. If my point is this, A, B, C, and your point is C, D, E, why can't we just agree to disagree? There's very, very little of agreeing to disagreeing nowadays. It's either you do it my way or it's a highway. And that, I feel, is just a sad, sad condition of language, is that people can't articulate their feelings in such a way that it makes, look, I'm sorry, this is my point of view.
Yeah.
I'm putting my hand up and saying, this is my point of view. I'm standing by it. I have experience in this. I have done this. I've seen that. I've read this. I've done that. No, it doesn't work anymore these days. These days now, it's just they will argue you down. They would beat you down with words
Yeah, well,
until their point is taken.
yeah, I think it's important to persevere and remember McLuhan said understanding is not having a point of view, but his line, which is a question, could be a remedy. Like, what do you do when language breaks down? Say, you mean my whole fallacy's wrong? So these are two questions. Well, no, first of all, your observations of humans in general, I know it's both and it depends. Are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
Mhm. I would say that we're more thinking beings until we need to feel. And then we change. So, for example, if I get up in the morning and I'm the only one in the house up early or whatever, and I'm just pottering around, you don't have a cup of coffee, whatever, do something, look at the dog or something like that there. And it just makes it, you're like, yeah, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that. I would be thinking about God knows everything, until it comes to a point where you have to feel. Your wife gets up, your children get up, someone knocks at the door. All of a sudden, then you change. You flick over to the thinking, from the thinking part to the, damn it, I have to come back to reality now, and that's what it is. It's you end up like that.
That's amazing. So these are two questions. And Robert, thank you so much. You really get what we're
No problem.
doing
No
here.
problem.
Alan Turing asked these two questions in the 50s. The first one is thinking a function of the soul?
The soul. Oh, um, I was born and bred and raised a Catholic in Donegal. You didn't go to mass on Sunday, you were excommunicated for a whole week. It was just a terrible, terrible thing, and your soul went to purgatory, and it was a horrible place. And people didn't really realize. I don't think people really realize what the soul of a person or a human actually means. Like, we've never seen it. No scientist has come up and said, "Okay, lads, this is it. This is a soul. It looks like this, a little circle, and it exists there in the center of your stomach." We don't have it. So what we have is theories. We have thinking. People are thinking, so what we're doing now, today, is all those years back, we're taking all the great writers, all the great theologians, every great person that spoke or talked or wrote about the soul, and we're using that. We're not using our own impression of what does the soul mean. We're not there. And we can't be, because we're not all scientists, theologians, and all this, and great higher level thinkers or whatever. Some of us are just ordinary people. And we just hear the words, "Oh, yeah, he said something about the soul. I saw a video once. Yeah. His soul was a bright light lifting out of his head." It's like, this is, people just going, "Oh, yeah, I think it might be something like a white light or something." But you can't. And you can't tell that. And unless some higher being comes down and says, "Right, lads, here it is, there's the soul." That's the thing there.
Well,
If we
Robert,
don't get that, it's not going to happen.
yeah, this is what McLuhan called rear view mirrorism, that we go forward looking in the rear view mirror. The second Turing question is, can machines think?
Absolutely. But they can only
Wow.
think. They can only think by what they're given. Just
Yeah.
2 seconds, Joe.
Yeah, no worries.
Am I too loud?
Yep. Oh, no.
No, it's one of those things that you forget about when you're on the phone and you talk a little bit louder and someone else is in the house. And you're like, okay, now, can
Well, no,
machines
that was
think?
good. Yeah, and you were really well defining it, but it's not thinking in the typical sense we think, right?
No, no, no. I've been in technology for God knows how many years, and I've loved every minute of it. And I've loved the fact that AI, artificial intelligence, and all these other different things are there. But when you boil them down, it's just like, what are the commands that have been given to an AI bot? What,
Yeah.
we told them what to do. And you look at things like the Terminator movies, where machines become self-aware. Like, these things are all hypotheses that have been blasted about for years and years and years. Can a machine actually think? I don't think it can actually think on its own. Now,
Yeah.
it can only think by what we've given it. So if I put in a list of commands, here's B, C, blah, 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 that's the machine is going to do that. That's it. It's not going to do anything else. To get a machine to come up and go, look, I'm a machine. I'm a lovely robot here now, and I use my little robot arm to paint the Mona Lisa. But they can't.
Yeah.
Because a machine will never be artistic. A machine will never have the brain of Michelangelo, of Caravaggio, of anyone. A machine, Jerry, a machine will never have the brain of James Joyce.
Yeah.
And can never
We can't get AI.
output.
Yeah, we can't get AI to rewrite Finnegan's Wake, thank God, because Joyce already wrote. Joyce
Thank God, I
already
love that.
invented AI. But this goes into what you just said, Robert, perfectly when you discuss the soul. The question is, does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness? And I know it's both and it depends, but basically, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're detecting it? Or are we actually creating it? And again, it's like, well, it depends what we determine to believe consciousness is, but just this general feeling, what we all think, we all have a hunch what we think consciousness is. Do you think we more detect it or create it?
I think it would be a combination of both, but it would be more. I would swing more to the side of creating it. And the reason for that is our consciousness is built into us. And it's not, as I said to you about the soul, it's not an eyeball, it's not an ear, it's not a finger, it's
Yeah.
nothing physical that we can actually touch. But our consciousness can't see. Our consciousness is only taking the information that we're giving it, and it's using that to make up its own, whatever you think it's going to happen or whatever it's going to be. So I don't think that consciousness on a general scale would be something that you could say, yeah, this is it. I can define it down to the letter. You can't really.
Yeah.
Not unless it's actually spread out or laid out or whatever. You can't really define it down. I'm being pragmatic or whatever, but you can't actually lay it out and say,
No.
there it is. Jerry Fickler's consciousness is A, B, C, D, E. We
Yeah.
got it.
No, I
You're
agree.
never going to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And what's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Well, I do know the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. So I would say speed of thought.
Robert, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right. Thank you. So this next this next one is Audre Lorde, the poet, said, "You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools." Yvonne Rainer responded to her and said, "You can if you expose the tools." What new tool do you suggest? And it's back to that, what you've talked about already. The tool doesn't necessarily have to be tangible. What new, and you don't have to really use the word new. What tool do you gravitate towards? What tool do you suggest? Pen. That's mine too.
The power
What
of
do
the
you
pen,
work?
Jerry.
Yeah, the power
I
of the
think
pen.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, when you look at what has happened in the world today, especially in the last maybe 3 years or whatever, the amount of information that we've been bombarded with. I mean, bombarded left, right, and absolute center. And it's you no matter where you look, you can look here, you can look. I've got a great source. I know the great source that I'm looking at is true. I know that. It's hardly true if you don't believe it. Like nowadays, if you ask anyone about COVID-19, you'll get a huge response. Oh, this, blah, 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 blah. If you ask them about anything like that, you'll get this response that comes from a bombardment of information being blasted into their heads. But still, to this day, Jerry,
Yeah.
this and this is what kills a master's house. It doesn't kill the master's, it makes a master's house much better, I'd say. And the reason it make
Yeah.
it much better is if you look at it from a point of view of, oh, I don't understand that financial construct that they've done there now in that bank, and they're making me pay this money or whatever. Why are they doing this? Oh my God, look, somebody fell off a bicycle thinking about it. But if you get a book and you read up on it and you study it and you maybe even try and remember a bit by writing it down, all of a sudden you've gone from trusting the fake news, the sensationalist news, to actually making your own decision, which is hugely important.
Totally agree. Robert, what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Waking up in the morning? No, I don't. Yes, Jerry, we all have our worries. As a family man, I worry about my family, whether they'll be there in the morning, whether they're safe, if they're out at night, or whether their future, their career is going on. I tried, like, when you think about, if you have children, your life changes. It's not yours anymore. It's theirs. You know, you're part. You're just supporting them, even from a small baby right up until they're way into their adulthood or whatever. But you're actually part of something different, part of something else. So I don't tend to worry that much. I try not to, because I feel that worrying drags you down. It makes you a bit sadder. It makes you less productive. I believe that, like, as I said to you, I do take a lot of pictures and stuff like that there, and I do love having the ideas. I don't think I could if I was sad or if I was worried about something or whatever, you know. Like, I mean, I know now that in my efforts of taking pictures, you will come along, Jerry, and you go, oh my God, there's the scene, there's the picture, there it is. And next minute it's gone, you go, damn it, I lost it. But you can't worry on that, you can't dwell on that. You just go, okay, off to the next one. And you have to do that. Otherwise, you'll just stay there on the side of the road, sitting on the curb, crying into your camera, going, I missed the shot, I'll never get it again. And that's my feeling, is that when I wake up in the morning and I go to bed at night, I go, yeah, we all have our worries, you know, you all have your basic worries, you know, do I have enough money? Do I have enough food? Do I have enough water? Enough shelter? Everything. You have those, but you get on with it. And that's what I think is, as humans, you have to. You really do have to just go, okay, let's get a good night's sleep, see what happens in the morning.
That's a great attitude. It's like go with the flow. So McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so that we can learn to cope with what we don't like about them. So I asked you, Robert, the same question McLuhan would ask. Why do humans ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though artists are broadcasting them to us?
I would say, Jerry, like, I know a little bit about Ezra Pound, that he was pretty flamboyant, a great man. And I would dearly love to have been able to take his picture. But to say that the psychic element of our inventions, of our progress, of our technology and all that, and is not appreciated by people is correct. I don't really mind what's happening to this mouse. I don't care. All I want to know is, will it work when I turn it on? Yeah. Will I be able to click the little button? Basic stuff. But I deliberately put myself in that basic element so that I don't have to worry about it. Am I worrying about the 40 million billion calculations this is doing as a positioning device that No. And the reason I do that is because if I did, I would never make it out the front door.
Yeah.
By simply worrying about all these things. And yes, it's okay for an artist to come along and say, oh, I've done this, I've done that, and whatever, and uh, that's fine, but it's not going to work for ordinary people. Now, I'm not saying that
Yeah.
we're ordinary and artists are better than us or whatever. I mean, we're all born the same. We
Yeah.
just grow up differently or we're wired differently or whatever. But saying that, I think ordinary people worry less than artists. Artists would be more, oh my God, I can't, it's at a higher level, it's at a lower level, blah, blah, blah. And if you meet artists, you know where they're coming from. They're flipping mad, Jerry. They're absolutely.
I
I
love it.
I have met artists and I'm like, seriously, you're an artist? But they are brilliant. They're brilliant. They challenge you. They challenge you visually. They challenge you audio. Every single bit is challenging you. Challenging. Do you see this? Do you see it? Do you see what I did with that picture? Did you see what I did with that painting? And it's brilliant. And we need it. Believe me, we need it. We need it because of a balance.
Yeah.
If there was no balance there, it would be such a boring, boring life. I mean, unbelievable. Can you imagine a world without James Joyce?
Yeah.
Can you imagine a world without Ezra Pound or without
Yeah.
any of the great artists around it? Can you imagine what they give to us?
Yeah.
They've actually given us the balance that we needed.
Well, do artists have a moral obligation?
No, no. I think nowadays you look at artists, all great artists that nowadays anyway, it's all about fame and fortune. And it's all about do I have I got enough money? Am I making enough money? Will I make more money? How am I going to do this? Am I actually selling enough NFTs to make money and blah blah blah? And it goes on and on ad infinitum. And you're just there going, I like the picture of the house. And they're like, no, 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 no. It's all about my future on Instagram. It's all about my future on Facebook. It's all about this. And they try to convince you that that's exactly what it is, when in reality, we all know you paint a picture, you sell the canvas for double the money or whatever, and that's your profit made. And you look
Right.
at the likes of the greatest painters in the world, and they had the same idea, although they were representing stuff. Like if you look at the great paintings way back many 400 years ago, they were very religious. And obviously the church could pay for them, and that's where the money came from. But they were based on themes,
Yeah.
Jesus on the cross, all this, this Pope and this priest and all that. And that was the theme of the time. Nowadays it's a bit different, and it really is tiny little bit different, where you have anything and everything coming up. And it's lovely, but it's not what we assume artists are. Like,
Yeah.
how many artists do you know paint for free?
Yeah. I know what you're saying. Well,
You can't
Rob,
you can't put free on the table.
yeah, no, that's really important. That's McLuhan's one of his favorite lines is the Balinese have no word for art. They do everything as well as they can. So it's not like, oh, I'll
Correct.
try harder and make more hits. So are you more afraid of old ideas or more afraid of new ideas?
God no, Jerry. I spent excuse me, many years in the Navy, and we had old ships, we had new ships, and we had scenarios and scenes coming up every day, and it was just challenging. Every day was challenging, being at sea in a ship and all that. And you have what we call old sweats, which are older people that were in longer, and they would have the old ideas, and they would say to you, "Oh no, do this. This will work better. This will make it perfect." And you're kind of going, "No, I'm young. I'll tell you what to do. We'll get a brand new idea here. We'll have a great idea, and we'll do this." And it fails miserably, or whatever it does that. But the balance, again, it's all about balance. It's like if you have someone come along to you and say, "Hey, have you cleaned your windows?" Yeah, I did. Yeah, I used this absolutely beautiful high-tech super spray, and it cleaned the windows perfectly. What did you use? Well, I used vinegar and an old newspaper. Same result, exactly same result, no difference. One an old idea, one a very new idea. And if you balance it out, yeah, look, I could take the time. I actually read a newspaper, so I could rip it up and go and clean the window, whatever. And this other person said, "Well, I don't have time for that." and rush, rush, rush. I just need to spray and go. So that's where I say is the balance of the new ideas against the balance of the old ideas. You should always consider the old ideas as well as in conjunction with and beside the new ideas.
I love that balance. Thank you so much, Robert. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
Well, yeah, I think it would have been my dog at home in Donegal. We had a beautiful dog. Lassie was her name. And she was a beautiful old dog. So I think I remember her fur. She had long, collies have longer fur than other dogs. I always remember pulling at it, and kind of, oh yeah, it's long, something that you can tug at, whatever, I'd say that would be my earliest memory. An earliest formative memory that you could think of would probably be going to school. When you eventually go to school
Right.
and you kind of remember, oh yeah, this is. I remember Mrs. this teacher and that teacher, and remember what you did and stuff like that, And it's kind of like, yeah, those are memories that you never forget. Like I remember we went to a small school in Glenealy called Balkan, and we went to the school and the national school there, and I'll never forget. This was the first time I'd ever encountered it. Was the headmaster, Master Cannon, and his daughter was in school with us, and she was in our class. And the day came for us to get our pictures taken, the class photo. So we all had to stand up at this wall and get the picture taken. So we were all standing up, and nobody really liked this poor girl. And anyway, I was the teacher's headmaster said, have your lunch while you're waiting, whatever. So I had my lunch. I rolled up my ball of tinfoil. I'm standing behind the photographer. My turn will be next. I'm standing behind the photographer, and he's getting the people in. The next minute, Katrina, this lovely girl, goes up, the headmaster's daughter, and she stands, and your man says, okay, hang on a second, and he's winding the film, and the next minute he gets it ready. And just as she goes, I threw the ball and whack.
Oh my God.
Hit her on the head, right? It was a great shot. It was absolutely super shot, Jerry. And I thought, I'm proud of that now. That's good, And just as I turned around, the headmaster's standing there, and I'm going, oh my God, I'm fucking dead. I'm dead. And he just looks at me and says, good shot. and she was roaring. I mean, roaring her head off. And I just went, sometimes in life gives you a little break and you get that little bit of luxury and you go on. So the most formative early memories would probably have been school and playing around where I lived in the country. So we had adventure time all the time.
Really articulate. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
It depends on the experience of the memory that you've had.
Yeah.
If you like I wouldn't be too pushed about much of the stuff, really. I just enjoy life, enjoy people, love meeting people. I'm a people watcher as a photographer. I am people watcher. I watch them all the time. And I just think you don't have to be so funny all the time. And you don't have to be super bright, and you don't have to be articulate. Not all the time. Sometimes you just go, let it flow.
Yeah.
I'll just go with the flow. I'll have a great time here, enjoy myself. But I wouldn't go down the line of, I have to make everyone laugh. Oh God, I have to say the right things. Oh God, I have to back up everything I'm saying. It's like, what's that word that they have now on the internet? Fact check.
Yeah.
You know that? They have to fact check everything. No. Go out, do your bit, enjoy yourself, and come home. And it's not really much more, for me, that's not much more than what it is.
Yeah. Robert, tell me someone within your immediate family, please, and then outside your immediate family, just briefly, who had an impact on you like a role model, and what specifically was that impact?
Yeah, a good. Well, obviously, I have to say my wife. Hello,
And
love.
what you get mainly from your wife? What do you think?
Well, myself, my wife, we've have 4 children. Um, we have twins in the middle. So I have an older girl, I have twins in the middle, and I have a little boy at the end. So they're all my youngest son is nearly 18. He'll be 18 in May. So she did that. I didn't really have much of an input into it, like really, she did all of that growing up business, getting them through this, getting them through that, sitting with them, chatting with them, hugging with them, doing the whole motherly thing, that I couldn't do. I'm a man. I'm a practical man, A, B, boom. But for women, it's different. It's different. The mothering is a different thing, and it requires huge resilience. It requires huge dedication. I mean, so much more dedication than I could ever have. And it makes you look back and go, wow, that's some effort. Fair play to you. Well done. I'd love to be able to do that, From outside, I've had many influences. I recently, just a couple of days ago, a good friend of mine from many years ago died, passed away. And he was a lovely man, George Carr. And he was a chief in the Navy. And I'll never forget, we had a fella who was in my group, in the MEX group in the Navy. And he had a very bad stammer, Jerry. I mean, really bad. He had tried the marbles and they stopped him getting marbles because he was swallowing so many of them. So he had a terrible stammer and it was really bad. So one day I was in the engine control room, and we had 2 doors for the front and the back engine room. And I was talking to George, this guy from Dublin, lovely man from Ballymun. And I said to him, we were chatting away about something, about doing something or whatever. Next minute, the door to one of the engine rooms flew open. And there's a blast of steam, and in comes Jim, right? Now, Jim is a really bad stammer. So myself and George are standing there. He comes up to myself and George, and he goes, oh, oh, oh. And George says, go down and turn it off. And Jim just looks at him, and he runs off and he goes down the stairs. And I said to George, George, how did you know what he was saying? And he says, so bleeding engine room, he says, there's only 2 things can happen. You can either turn it on or turn it off. But it was so impressive. I mean, honestly, it was just like on the tip of, he didn't even go, where is it? What is it? Is it a big fire? Is it an explosion or whatever? No, it just go down, turn it off. And I was just so impressed. And I was like, I'd love to be able to think like that on my feet and just go, bingo. It'd be brilliant. But he did it, and he solved the situation there and then, just like that. So I'd say George would have been one of them very early on. He was such a wonderful character, And that's the thing about being in the military, is that you're presented with characters that are just unbelievable. We had a captain on a ship, Jerry. I swear to God, I never. Do you remember the film, The Cane Mutiny?
Yes.
And it was I don't know what the actor's name was now. He was a famous Bogart.
Yeah.
And in the Cane Mutiny, Bogart had he was obviously gone mad, and he had these 2 steel balls that he just like this with the steel balls. And our captain was a real life captain, was just as mad as Bogart. So one day anyway, I was in charge of getting videos for the ship. One day anyway, I got Mutiny. We played it on loop day after day after. This was when we had no satellite or anything like that. Right? So we played it for a whole week. And the captain came up to me one day and he says, do you know something? He says, the lads must love that movie. He says, The Cane Mutiny. I says, yeah, I don't know why they love it. It's a great movie. It's lovely. Every time I turn on the TV, he says, Cane Mutiny's on. I said, oh, yeah. 2 weeks later, we sailed, Jerry. This is after being in for repairs and everything. We sailed. And sitting on the bridge was a box, a little wooden box. And when I went up to the wooden box, I said, sir, do you mind telling me what's that? He says, have a look there, have a look. 2 steel balls. Wow. I kid you not. We were like, oh my God, is this life imitating art? Art imitating life? I was like, oh my God. We only played the movie just to drive him mad, But he was like, he had the 2 steel balls. I was like, oh my God, what have we done, But those type of things and those characters that we had define you.
Yes.
They absolutely, utterly define you. The likes of George, as I said, who was able to instantly solve the situation, and the captain who has gone mad, and there was all these things. They define you in ways that you don't realize. And when later on in life, you can actually go, oh yeah, just go down and turn it off. You're like, I learned that. I got that, you know?
Wow. Did you raise, you were raised Roman Catholic, so was I. Did you raise your kids Roman Catholic?
No, we decided early on, much early on, that we would bring them up, teach them respect your elders, be polite, speak properly, and just be good people. So we never brought them to mass or anything. We said, when you're 18, off you go, find your own religion, and we'll support you. And we've done that ever
Do
since.
you
We've done that, and it's been brilliant. And we've never had an issue.
do you pray, Robert?
No, Jerry, I'll
If
tell you
God,
why I don't pray.
okay, go ahead.
Right? We Donegal in Ireland, a lovely place, the most beautiful place in the whole world, better than Cork. Yeah, she's from Cork. Beautiful, beautiful place, but very religious. And my grandmother was exceptionally religious. You couldn't swear around the house. You had to be nice to your elders. You had to be super polite if you were walking down the road. You had to say hello to somebody. Hello, hello, doing whatever. And one day we were going to mass. I was about 7 years old, and we were heading to mass. We were going in and all heading into the church. And I tripped. My grandmother had my hand, and I tripped and I fell. And I fell against a curb, and I slit my arm all the way from elbow, wrist to the elbow. It was a huge, big cut. Now, it wasn't deep or anything, but there was a lot of blood, you see. So I was sitting there on the curb, bleeding. My grandmother was standing there, and I thought, that's it. I'm not going to mass. I'm off to the hospital. No, this man walked past, big coat on him, pulled out a handkerchief, big one, gave it to my grandmother. She wrapped it around my arm, nice and tight, and brought me into church. And we sat there. I don't know, it's about an hour long or something, Jerry. We sat there for an hour, and all I could see was the blood coming out of this. And I'm thinking, am I going to just, is this it? And my grandmother insisted that was it. And when we came out of the church, I was taken to the doctor.
Yeah.
Never, we didn't miss mass. You don't, like, when we missed mass, as you got older, when we missed mass, it was, have you been to mass? Yeah. What did Father Duffy say? Oh, he said, be nice to old people. I said, really? Well, it was Father Duggan. You're like, caught. You realize you didn't go, and I never really got into the whole, this is never really, like, I've been to Lebanon, Jerry, and I've been to Jerusalem. I've been to Cana, the church in Cana where you converted the wine
Yeah.
in Lebanon. I've actually stood in the ditch where they got the crown of thorns. And I have a photograph of it. And I actually stood in this ditch with this crown, with these thorns, and they are big. They're really big, and they're really sharp. And I remember taking one off and posting it home from Lebanon to my mother, because she was really religious, and she would have loved that, But I went through all that. I went through the whole thing, and I looked at all these people, and I'm like, oh my God, it's just not me. I'm not that, There's no proof. Is there proof? Yeah. Could you have proof? Is there like that? And you kind of look at it and you kind of go, nah, not for me. I prefer to be kind, polite, respectful, happy, rather than actually saying, hey, I've been to mass, I'm a good person. Yeah. There's the one thing that got me, Jerry, the one thing that got me was when we went to mass. You'd hear stories throughout the whole week. And when we went to mass, I'd see this bad person sitting across from me in a pew. And I'd say to my mom or my grandmother, I'd say, why is he in the church with me? Because I'm a good person and he's a bad person. I could never get it in my head. Why is that? How is that allowed? Why is that? We know he's bad. He knows he's bad. But why is that allowed? And they couldn't answer. They would say, no, it's a way of God. It's Jesus loves everyone. No. I don't really want to be associated with a bad person. I just want to be good, nice, kind, and polite. And that's what we did with our kids, Jerry. We did it all the time, and we're hopeful, fingers crossed, that they'll be good and carry on with their life, you know.
Well, Robert, you anticipated a question, but first, one quickie is if God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
That's a very good question, Jerry. And the reason it's a very good question is because I'm thinking back to when Stephen Fry was interviewed by our late Gay Byrne, and he asked him, what would you do if you arrived in heaven and met God? And Stephen Fry said, I'd say, why the F did you give children cancer?
That is nothing, yes.
That's an excellent reply to Gay Byrne, because Gay Byrne is a very, very religious person, a Catholic religious person. And Stephen Fry just made the point, and I just thought, do you know what? That is exactly correct. Why did you give children, innocent children, cancer? And it's just horrible, horrible thing. But to ask him a question now, I don't think so. I don't think I'd actually be in the mood to ask him a question, because you'd have so many, and you'd kind of go, okay, do you remember that pen I lost 20 years ago? Or would you just go, oh, I asked about the bloody pen. I should have asked about something else, you know, whatever. You know, you kind of be peer pressure type of, you know, what will I actually say? You know, this is God, the Almighty, the creator of everything. What would you come up with?
Right.
Would you feel embarrassed? Would you, you know, you're not going to come up, you're not going to be a philosopher and go, oh yes, I think I'd ask this very, very philosophical question. You're not.
Yeah.
You're an ordinary person. You're just going to say the ordinary thing.
There's a funny joke that goes, the guy goes to his guru. He says, what's the best question I can ask you? And the guru says, the one you just asked me. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Good question. But I think if you look at history, when we were, like, I'm assuming now that this is correct, that when we were monkeys in Africa and we were crossing the plains with Lisa, and where was there evil there? Did Lisa decide, oh, I'm going to be bad to this person or this monkey here? We'll get that tiger and we'll torture him, you know, that sort of thing. Did that happen? Or were they just going, no, survival, food, water, shelter, let's go. But as we move through history and on and on and on and on and on and on, and you see the cruelty that people did, I think that evil is something that happens to someone by an existence of something that caused it.
Yeah.
So the cause of that evil, say for example, your country was invaded, your people were locked up, they were made slaves, they were beaten, they were, you know, whatever. And then all of a sudden you got freedom and you went back to, okay, we need to go to a bit of normality or whatever. There will be always something in your head that these people did something to me. They did this to my country, to my children, to my family, to whatever. I will do anything I can. And then the person would be thinking, you know, if I can just get one, if I can do one person, that would be a bit of, you know, a little bit of kudos for me, but it would also be a bit of revenge. So I think humans have revenge. Like, I know that the latest studies are showing that orcas are prone to revenge. And there's other animals that are prone to revenge. But I'd say humans, their revenge is on a higher scale. And the scale makes them more and more evil. Like, if you look at any of the, you know, the serial murderers or the great dictators who killed millions and millions and millions of people, like millions, huge number, something went wrong. Something clicked. Someone did something to make that person bad. They didn't just be born. The doctor hold them up by the legs and slapped them on the ass and said, right, you're evil. Off you go. They had to go through something. They had to experience something. Something had to pull them to that level. I don't think generically, I don't think, unless it's, of course, if we can take out brain disease or damage or whatever, but I don't think normal, ordinary people can actually be evil for the sake of being evil. I think they're evil because of something that happened.
Yeah,
A history.
most people say that trauma's involved, but it's, you led into the next question perfectly, Robert, because it is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'm going to set it up with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question, Robert, is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
I'd say that Alan is correct, 100%. Most enemies need recognition. They need fame, money, fortune, whatever. They need to be recognized as being up there, above their own people that they hate or whatever. So I'm thinking, yes, Alan is correct, 100% correct. That if you ignore someone, like, we're humans, Jeff, and the thing that drives humans mad is to be ignored. We can't do it. We need, here in Ireland, every single person, no matter where you go, hello, hi, hello, and it's just, you don't know these people from Adam, and you're just like, hello, hi, yeah, and that's it. And when we're driving, if you're driving in Donegal, people go,
yeah.
and I've been with my family, and I said, do you know him? Nah. And they're acknowledging, and it's basic acknowledgement of another human being.
Yeah.
And I think if the other human being is really, really bad and becoming your enemy, the minute you say, that's my enemy, that's your conflict started.
Yeah.
And it's going to squeeze you until you can see nothing other than that conflict. But take away the conflict, and it's all clear.
Yeah.
So I think Alan is correct in saying, yes, do not ever acknowledge your enemy as an enemy. Like, I know you don't come up and say, hey, Jerry, you're my enemy.
Yeah.
You never say that. You wouldn't say that. Of course you wouldn't say that. Like, but you do it in such a way that you go, oh, Jerry was much, much better at reading than me. He read Finnegan's Wake so good, it was just unbelievable. It was just the best thing ever. How he did that. But I do think that having an enemy is something that people can use as a leverage.
Yeah.
Like, if Jerry Fickler was reading Finnegan's Wake in such a brilliant, brilliant way, and I'm going, oh my God, Jerry's so good, he's my enemy, and he made me look a fool in front of Sweeney's. And you're like, I can learn from this. I can use this. I can channel this around. I can watch exactly what Jerry's doing. Well, he was sitting there and he had his hand on his head. Yep, I'll do that. And then Jerry, done, got it. And all of a sudden, you're becoming a person who's learning, who's feeding off this enemy. And all of a sudden, you're becoming better. So having an enemy is, on one sense, if you treat it as an enemy, it's so bad. It's so demoralizing. It drags you down. It takes you all the way down to the bottom. You never get back up.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible, horrible thing. And sometimes, and the other thing, the worst thing about having an enemy that drags you down to the bottom is when you ask for help. Yeah. You're in serious trouble. You are in big, big, big trouble. It means you haven't learned. It means you haven't been able to dedicate yourself to learning from the enemy and making yourself better.
American Indians, indigenous, say your enemy is your best teacher. So it really is evoking what you're saying. And so James Joyce, I'm glad you brought him up, was the first projectionist in Dublin. He started a movie theater, Volta. And he basically checked out. He said, "This is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree?" Years later, William Faulkner said, "Sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism." Robert, why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
I think there's several answers to that, Jerry. You could answer it in many ways you want. Like if I look at a movie and it's got Leonardo DiCaprio in it, great actor, whatever he's doing, he's doing something there, and I'm like, oh my God, look at the way he jumped on that horse and then he sped off down the road and he took out that enemy in the bushes and he got the girl in the end. It was a great happy movie. And when you're looking at movies, you put yourself in the character that you're watching. And you become, for the seconds that you're watching, in your own head, that character, And you're like, how many people in the world, don't want to be Vader? I am your father. It's the thing is, when you see fake, when you see made up, when you see that somebody had an idea, George Lucas said, why don't we make this thing called Star Wars? Or, and you're like, no, that's rubbish. That doesn't exist. But now it exists in everyone's mind. And everyone is either a stormtrooper or Darth Vader or a Luke Skywalker or something like that. They are the characters that they see. So when you look at the movie, you become the person in the movie. You want to look at that movie and go, oh, that's me. And it's my nephew, Jonathan French, is an actor here in Ireland. And he did a film, and it was a great film. It was really, really good. So he sent us the message, it's on, go on watch it. And I watched it. And do you know what it was, Jerry? It was, I know this guy. This little guy grew up to be, a big man. I know him. And it was so different to watching Leonardo DiCaprio. It was so different to watching anyone else. But you're like, that's my don't you hurt my nephew. And you're like, you have an empathy and a sympathy with him, and you're kind of like, oh God, come here. But when we're watching movies, we are the character that we see.
Yeah.
If the train is driving at high speed down the track, you're the guy with the hand on the lever, and you're the, you are a character, and everyone picks up the different people and the characters, and they kind of go, I like that character, I didn't like that character, that sort of thing. But I think it's when you look at the movie, I think Joyce was absolutely 100% correct in saying, go outside and look at the real tree, touch the real tree, feel it, take a leaf off it, whatever. Or as we said, Jerry, one night when we were talking in Finnegan's Wake, leave it alone.
Leave it alone. Well, you evoked,
but that's what I mean is you have to look at these things and kind of go, yeah. Reality, yeah. I detest looking at a holiday destination video or photos, and I really, really do. And the reason I detest them is they've spoiled it. They've spoiled that for me. I can't really go there now with that image in my head, or I don't need to go. I've seen everything. I like that experience of going to a new place or going to a new thing or going to see something or whatever, and you're like, okay, that's exactly what I should. We went recently, Jerry. We went to our Cork City Library, and our Cork City Library hosts book writers, and one of the book writers that came to see us was Val McDermott. And Val McDermott is she wrote Wire in the Blood, which became a very, very successful TV adaptation or whatever. And she's a lovely girl from Scotland. And we went to see her, and she was there and she was talking in the library. And the difference between reading the book by this person and seeing the face behind the book is immense.
Yeah.
I mean, immense. She told us all about the Stardust disaster that happened here in Dublin, where all those young people were burned to death. And there was a horrible, horrible thing way back in the 80s. And she told us all about that she was one of the reporters from Scotland who came to cover that. It's a horrible story. But you're like, you get into this person, this artist, this actual person who's formulating these words and making them happen. And of course, they're all fake. And we look at it and we kind of go, yeah, I'd like to be Vader. I really would. He had so much fun.
Yeah. Well, Robert, that's an amazing word you use, because fake and fact, FACT, both come from the Latin word to make. So it's interesting as well when you touched on a McLuhan phrase. He said, the user is the content, that the person who's experiencing it. And I love his wording there. And so, walk us through just briefly, what was the tipping point for you to pursue your naval career and then to pursue being a photographer? Like, you're growing up, and what was that point where you go, that's what I'm going to do?
Well, it was way back in '81, Jerry, when I we were living in a local town, just a small little country place, beautiful, beautiful country, much nicer than Cork. I'm dead tonight. And then two of my best friends came home from the Navy. They were in recruits. They came home and they were in their uniform, and I thought, God, you know, that looks lovely. I'll give that a try. So being a trier, we have a saying here in Ireland, and Cork in particular, is if you're not sure how to do something, you've never done it, you've never seen it, you're just not 100% sure, you wing it. So I said, you know what? I'll head off to the Navy and I'll wing it and see what happens. How bad could it be? 4 years of my life down in lovely Cork? Sure, what harm? So I ended up coming down here to Cork, and it was just amazing. I loved it. We stayed on Spike Island. It was an absolute, oh my God, an experience, Jerry. This was at a time when things were pretty rough. They weren't good times. With great memories, with really, really great memories, but you had to be very, very tough. You'd be very hard, almost to the level of super bully or whatever, but I started taking pictures with a tiny little Kodak camera that you folded over and a little handle came down, and it was just Instamatic 110. And I bought it when I was here in my first week or something. I just kept taking pictures and pictures and pictures. And I kept going and going and going. I think about 17,000 negatives at one stage. But it was all film then. So it was much, much more difficult time than now we would have, with photography. So the Navy was great. Stayed there for 23 years, met my beautiful wife, Nicole, and decided then, okay, kids are small, kids are young, I'll see if I can get a job in Civvy Street. So joined the Civvies and had a few jobs, ended up in Dell Technologies, and it was just great. I just loved it. And that transfer from having live ammunition and guns on you all day, every day, having, giving military orders and commands, and everything had to be spick and span, super tight haircut still. Shoes polished to the last, all that stuff was all gone then when I went to Dell, and it was like, oh my God, EMC when we started, and all of a sudden you're dealing with people who, who haven't seen a gun in their life, who haven't fired a gun. I was in Lebanon, I was shot at by tanks, snipers. We were in the Shibia March, standing in a trench full of mines. Yeah, we saw some pretty horrible stuff, pretty brutal stuff, but it didn't affect me. Didn't affect me in a way that, we decided one day, this is one story, we decided one day we go to a thing called the Shibia March. Shibia March is a place in Lebanon, up in the mountains. It's about maybe 2,000 feet up. To get there, you had to go halfway up to a place called Finbat, which is the Finnish battalion. So we drove up in this Jeep, myself and two friends, and we were driving along, and next minute a tank opens up. And the noise of a tank is unreal. You freeze, Jerry. You just freeze when you hear it, So the tank opened up, and the officer in charge said, get out, get under the truck. And I said, stay where you are, drive fast, they can't hit a moving target. It was so funny, Jerry. So we drove and skidded in the gate of this camp. They opened the gate for us, skidded in the gate. The boys got out, they were all traumatized. And I was like, see if I can get back and get a picture of the tank. So they put us in a bunker, right? And they were all geared up, ready for action. Like, they put us in a bunker. And myself and my two friends are sitting there in this bunker, and it's all dark. And I'm thinking to myself, do you know what? I'm not going to get an opportunity like this anymore, ever again. You know, I says, I'll set up my camera, I put on the self timer, and we'll take a picture. And the boy said, okay. So I put the camera on a box and set the self timer, ran back, got in between the lads, and of course the camera went off, and so did the flash. So I said, okay, lads, just in case we didn't get it, no, I'll do it again. So I self timer, flash, boom. Ah, that's great, lads, that's lovely. Next minute, the door flew open. The Finnish battalion guys came in with fire extinguishers, rifles, everything. Are you all right, lads? Did you get hit? Hit by a shell? So I quietly put the camera in my pocket and I said, no, but we saw a couple of flashes. It was so funny, Jerry. It was just, I mean, you're just sitting there and you're like, we could have been, you know, in the danger, you know, life and death out there was just like very, very close.
Wow.
And, but it was wonderful to do that. And it was wonderful. And I got a lot of pictures out there. Were really, really good. One of my friends scared the life out of me. He said, we had to go to this old derelict building in this camp where we were, and we had to man the camp as an exercise. So I was given a rifle, headed up the stairs of this thing. It was a derelict old place. I'd lay down, but I brought my camera with me, you see. So I propped the gun up and left it there. I thought, that's great now. Anybody looks up, they'll say, yeah, robbers on the bottom. So I headed off taking pictures around the place. It was great. Came back down anyway. And one of the lads said to me, where were you? And I says, oh, I was up on the, you know, the lookout post up there. And great job. Put the rifle out and everything. He said, yeah, he is. Did you see any of the Lebanese vipers? He said. I said, what? Oh, that fucking place is full of Lebanese vipers. Nobody goes up there.
Jeez.
So, and I was lying on that ground and everything and the whole thing, but I'd gotten my pictures and that was the main part of it. And then I just kept going and going and going. Then came the digital age, Jerry. Left the Navy, went into Dell EMC, the digital age came in. We were all using digital now and iPhones and everything and all that. And it was the best thing ever. And ended up taking loads and loads and loads of pictures. And then started about 4.5 years ago, started Rebel Street Photography. And we decided we'd do it differently from what the previous street photography was. They were doing themes and stuff like that. It's all rubbish, like. So we decided to do proper, pure street photography based on Henri Cartier-Bresson, which was walk the streets, see what you see, snap what you want. And he did this religiously, and it was fantastic. And we did that. We said, look, we're not critics. There's only one critic, that's you. We don't care if you take one picture or 500 pictures. We just wanted people to enjoy the experience of going out on the streets of Cork and the Rebel City and take pictures of people left, right, and centre, whatever you want. So we were lucky. We were very lucky in the 4.5 years that we'd set up, and we got some very, very good times out of it, and really good. And we're trying now. We're trying to get back now. So we're hoping now that come the summer, Jerry, we'll be back on the streets of Cork as a group, taking pictures and enjoying life and love. And the thing about it, Jerry, is Cork is different to other cities. I don't know if I've told you this in Finnegan's Way, but Cork is different to other cities. We went to Dublin once, and everyone is just going boom, 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 running. You know, life is faster up there, and it's just amazing, you know. And then we went to London, and my God Almighty, save us, they're on high speed. They're just flying. They won't even talk to you. They won't even look at you, you know. But in Cork, you take a picture of somebody, you're guaranteed a chat, you know, and maybe even a cup of tea. So, and it's just it's a different thing when you're there in Cork and you're just go, oh, can snap and then hello, how's it going? What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And it's pure chat. It's just brilliant. In comparison to the likes of London, where it's super fast. They don't care anymore. You could fall in the street, and I know some poor man did fall in the street and died. A photographer, he had a heart attack or something. He died, and they left him there. He was there for the whole day or something like that. There, but it's just one of them things. It's, you know, life is so fast nowadays.
Yeah.
That street photography, you can go out and you can shoot whatever you want. Like we have certain rules and regulation, no children, nobody at a bank link, nobody at a shop cashier, or nobody, poor people, homeless people, nothing like that. But we like the emotion and stuff like that. And we try and get that. And it's very hard and it's very difficult, but it takes a long time. It takes years and years to get it done. I prefer to still shoot film.
I do too.
Film.
I shoot film once a year. I shoot 24 frames of film in my friend black and white film, and we have a workshop on photography. And I hope you'll join us sometime in the future because it's a really deep discussion on Bresson and whatnot. And these two questions come up. McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness. So clothing extends our skin, knife and fork extends our teeth. Say the eyelid is an extension of the shutter, and philosophy or religion might be an extension of consciousness. So what does the still camera extend for you? What humanness?
Well, I think I'll have to quote Henri Cartier-Bresson. Henri Cartier-Bresson was asked the same question: How can you take these great pictures? Why are you so good? And like he was at an older stage now, he was much more. And he says it's a fallacy to believe that the camera takes the picture. A photograph is taken by the head, the eye, and the heart. Yeah. And he was absolutely 110% correct. And you can see people do this, Jerry, and you can see them go, "Oh yes, that's this is the way to do it. This is it." It's not. It's all about. Henri Cartier-Bresson said the decisive moment. There is that thing, that instant, when you can go, "I know the exact moment that's going to happen. That becomes one. That is it." Now, as I said to you before, in this interview before, that, yeah, you can go out and you can go, "Oh, there's a pit. Oh, missed it. Damn it," and you move on. Now, Henri Cartier-Bresson did the exact same thing, but he knew instinctively that his head, in his brain, was this picture.
Yeah.
His eye was telling him, "Yeah, it's just around the corner there." And his heart, beating away, said, "Press the damn shutter."
That's, my friend was a great photographer for 70 of his 90 years. And he was a Russian Jew. No, he was a German Jew. And he was 16, 17 years old. And the local newspaper said, "Go shoot a picture of Hitler. He's coming to town." And so Alfred went. He knows that Hitler doesn't know he's a Jew. Hitler gets out of the limo. Alfred puts his camera up to his eye. His finger won't push down. He said, if that Hitler looks into his lens and he says, "If that guy knew I was a Jew, he'd kill me." And then, that was just a moment that he, just like you talked, that decisive moment. And then he went to the town square and he took photos of them. But that one moment where Hitler's eye went right into the lens, into his eye, his finger wouldn't push down. So the other thing I'm curious, Robert, is I'm glad you were articulate about photography as all these ideas, is your aesthetic in framing. How did you form your framing aesthetic? So like filmmakers and photographers will go like this, "Oh, my head's in the shot." How did you form, or what determined your aesthetic for how you frame something?
Well, getting back, I'm sorry we're getting back, but Henri Cartier-Bresson hated cropping. And he used to write and stamp on the back of his photographs, "Do not crop," as he was sending them off to newspapers and stuff like this, because he said that what he did was he framed the photo before he shot it. I never understood this. How the hell can you come up with that? But he did effectively frame his pictures. In my photography, I try the same. Now, there's a thing in photographs, and it's called elements. An element is, if I look at your picture there now, Jerry, the element would be you. There's other elements of photographs in the back wall, and there's elements in the photograph. But what you try to do is try to define, do I want to take a picture of just Jerry? Or do I want to take a picture of the wall behind Jerry or whatever, So you have to make that decision very, very quickly. And you're on the clock and you make the decision, I know what I'm going to do. And then you know whether you're going to go to a portrait or to go to landscape, and you're going to decide what it is. You're going to decide then how far away you are and how close you are, because I don't like zoom lenses. I prefer to walk. So my zoom lens is my legs. So I walk in and I walk out, and it just works. It works. And the other thing about it is, way back when we were using film, you had very little control over your framing as you do now with digital. Like with digital now, you can shoot 500 photographs of the same subject, and then pick whichever one you think is the best. But like with 36 films, you had to be frugal, you had to be careful, you had to be right. And I remember back when I was shooting film solely only, that getting your film back, I don't know if you've ever done this now, Jerry, but when you shoot a 36 roll of film and you get it back, we used to get a contact sheet made, and you get the film back and you get somewhere quiet, cup of coffee, sit down, pull out the contact sheet, and you look. And if all 36 are filled in with a photograph, ta-da, you did it. And if you if you got 39, oh wow, it was like pure heaven. No, absolute bonus now. But do you remember there's a film, Ben Stiller, it's called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Yes.
And if you ever watch it, it's fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. Sean Penn is in it. And Ben Stiller. You know the film. You know the bit in the film. Go on.
I know the original version, not the remake. Yeah.
Yeah, I only seen the remake, and it was absolutely fantastic. The bit that I loved about the film, the two bits. I wouldn't be a big fan of Ben Stiller or Sean Penn or anything like that, but they're good actors and they do a good job. But the two bits that I liked was the fact that he was talking about frame 37. There was this one frame of his roll of film that was missing. Nowadays, a digital camera will whiz by thousands of pictures and none will be missing. Back then, one single frame was the key to the whole thing. And the second part that was just absolutely blew me away, and I loved it, and I absolutely loved it, was when they were up in the mountains in Tibet somewhere, and Sean Penn was taking pictures of the snow leopard. And he had a big Nikon, and he had a big long lens, and all of a sudden, in the film, you can see him twisting and zooming, and the picture clears up to show a snow leopard in the mountains. And Ben Stiller says, take the shots, take the shot. Or why are you not taking the shot? And Sean Penn says, do you know, sometimes it's better just to look.
Nice.
And it was a fantastic saying. And it made me really think, and it actually saved my butt many times. Am I allowed to say butt? I don't know.
Yes.
I have to save my butt many times is when I'm there and I'm like, oh yeah. And then I go, there's a good shot.
Yeah.
It makes you feel a little bit better. And it's like, I appreciate that person doing that smile or, whatever, it was something like that. I'm just, it's okay. I'll work harder the next time. And that's what it is.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Jean Cocteau said he formed his framing aesthetic from the way you place the fork and the knife and the spoon on the dinner table. So I thought that was interesting. And I always think we formed our framing aesthetic from all the people who shot photographs and did paintings before us. We can't erase what we've seen, that it's probably affected us, because then Robert Frank came along and shot a photograph, like this, and why did he change the frame? But you taught me a lot: portrait, landscape. There's two other questions in the creative process in photography I'd like to to tackle if we could, because we only got about 10 or 15 more minutes. And it is a screenwriting teacher told me a great film or great art or great photograph is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great film or great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process photographing?
Good question, Jerry. And I've looked at, was it Barry Lyndon from
Yes.
Kubrick? And he was also a huge Leica fan. I
Yes.
have to get that in. I had to get that in. Sorry. He was,
Oh,
I don't know if you know this, but he photographed Barry Lyndon with a Leica lens.
Yeah.
That was especially made for him. I think he only got 3 made, but it was a 0.75.
Yeah.
And 0.75 would make, you know, the volumes of light, candela?
Yeah.
So 0.75 would make 1 candela, 1 candle, look like daylight. He was a genius. He was way ahead of his time. But yes. I think intent in photographs is, here's how I think it works, Jerry. If you go to the internet and you go onto Facebook and you go onto Pinterest and you go onto whatever photo application that you have, and you stroll through some pictures and you see some photographs and stuff. Now today you look through reams and reams and reams of mundane photos of this, that, everything. But every now and again you'll come along one photograph and you go, love it. That's a great picture. I can't believe that that's a great picture. And you have to be brave enough to put your hand up and say that is a great picture. But when you see that picture, to me, there is no need for a description. There is no need for, oh, can you see the seagull picking a peanut on the wall? No, there's no, if you see the picture and the picture says, this is it. Yeah. This is it. It's a person laughing in the street. It's a person hugging another person and they're so happy. So the picture is about happy people. You don't have to have a description. And this is what I try to do is, you're looking at for a photograph. Like Jerry, I'll admit it, I take lots of rubbish pictures as well, but you try your best to make sure that no one's going to come up and say, Robert, you know that picture you took of Jerry there? What does that mean? No. You do it in such a way that it doesn't require a narrative. It doesn't require a description. It doesn't require you to read 5 pages of text before you understand, oh my God, the peanut was a fake and the seagull was trying to eat the peanut. You know, you don't, if you have that, if you put that in your photographs, then it's not a photograph, it's a story. It's more like a newspaper story. It's not really a photograph. So, I mean, we all take millions and millions of family pictures, and they're just, like, I have a wall here at home and it's just covered in my family photographs. Let's see if I can show it to you. You see?
It's a documentation of the history of your family. Yeah, it's what we all do. That's why it's an amazing art form, because everybody does it. You know,
but it's not, none of the pictures are famous and none of the pictures are worth money. But to me and my wife and my family, priceless. Yeah. Absolutely priceless. My little girl on a bike, priceless. And that's what it is. But when you look at photography from a commercial point of view, or from, getting fame or books or whatever point of view, yes, it is absolutely important that the picture tells the story, not the other way around. If you put it the other way around, not really a picture.
Well, Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your viewer when you shoot the photograph?
Absolutely none, Jerry. I shoot for me. Yes. I am Robert French's personal photographer and only his personal photographer. If you worry, concern yourself, think about it, mull over it. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what am I going to do? Am I going to take this picture? I'm going to take that picture. You're not a photographer. you're something else. You're just working for, to satisfy somebody else, to get more likes, to get more this, get more that. It's
Yeah.
not. That's not what I'm about. It's not what I do. I
Yeah.
don't believe that, and I do believe that if you do that, then you've lost the art of being a photographer.
Yep.
You've lost the art of being a photographer so much that you're just a commercial entity, that you just, what is that? I can't remember that saying, is master of many, master of none, or something like that,
Yeah.
some saying like that about. But you should always concentrate on, yes, the family photographs are super, 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 super important and should always be. But if you're doing street photography like I do, and anything like that, then that's a different issue, and it's a different animal, and it's a different way to do things. And I love it. And I love doing what I do. And no one, absolutely no one, not even Jerry Fiedler, comes up and tells me, take this picture this way.
Yeah.
I do what I want. I know
Good.
I don't know, it's not being rude. It's not being rude, and it's not being pedantic, and it's not being, whatever. It's just a way to do things for me perfectly, properly.
Yeah, it's how humans have homogenized art with test screenings and whatnot. But Robert, we're coming to the 90-minute point. Are you willing to go a little over? You have a
Absolutely,
little.
Jerry.
Okay. So the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
one goes right along. What was the motive of the cave artist? Your hunch, your guess, not necessarily what documentarians or anthropologists say, but what was the motive of the cave artist?
I think, Jerry, without being in contact with those guys, I think they've gone on holiday or something. But I think what happened was an accident.
Nice.
Most great art that we've ever seen has been accidental. In other words, someone went out and he was wrestling with his pig in the yard, came in and was brushing off these hairs and said, do you know what? If I wrap them around a piece of a stick, I'll have a brush. Accidental. And it's the likes of Caravaggio and all these other great artists. They experiment with stuff, but in the cave, I'm sure that they went out one morning, the lads went out and left the girls at home and went out in the cave, and running around after these saber-toothed tigers or whatever. And they came running back and they came into the cave, and some red ochre or something on the ground had gotten wet. And one of the guys had stepped in it or put his hand in it or something, and then accidentally put his hand on the wall. And then stood back and went, well, I don't know what language they were speaking, Jerry, but he probably said, Eureka, I've got it. And all of a sudden, accidentally, he had all art.
Yeah.
So there would have been many handprints. And then maybe some smaller, younger child or whatever would a finger. Oh, yeah, look at that. And all of a sudden it went on from that. Now, we don't know to this day, is there more cave art out there? Is there more to be discovered? Or how much has been out there and has been destroyed? We've no idea. And it would be lovely to see more. It would be lovely to see newer stuff. And I would love to see it actually myself. I'd love to one day just to go to France or wherever and find one of these caves and go in and have a look. It would be absolutely beautiful. But I think cave art, accidentally happened. And then it progressed from there.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the go on.
Yeah, I've never heard that answer in all the 40 years I've asked, and I love this accident idea. Robert, what's more important, conviction or compromise?
I would be on the conviction side, because I believe that if I give something proper thought, good analysis, I have weighed up the outcomes. I believe I owe it to anyone involved to maintain my conviction. But yes, there are times when you have to put the old hand up and say, yeah, we'll compromise. Just this once. But
Beautiful.
No, it's yeah, I believe that you should definitely 100% have a conviction. If you don't, you're not. I'm not saying a strong or a weak person, but I'm thinking people with a conviction are more determined, are more focused. Like we do, like I do with my photography is, if I want to get the shot, I'll get the shot, irrespective. It's just one of them things. It's in me, and my conviction would be getting the shot. It's just go, 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 get it. And you jump through hoops and you bend over backwards. You get, but in the end, you get the shot. Now the downside, of course, is somebody looks at that shot and says, "It's rubbish." But for you, your conviction is keeping going, and getting it to the end, to that thing. And of course, yes, there are times when you have to say, look, I absolutely 100% will compromise on this. 100%.
Yeah.
Because
You
doing
know,
that actually allows you to do more.
Andy Warhol said, "Don't worry about what people think of your art. Just keep making it." You know, the flow. So T.S. Eliot said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Well, I don't know, Jerry. The voice in my head is me. Always been there. Except for the other voices. I don't know where they're coming from. But you you think in the language that you think, yeah, this is how it should be. You convince yourself. Always, always, always convincing yourself that you've done right, that you've done the proper thing, that you've said the right thing, that you didn't, upset anybody, or you didn't, make a mess of things so badly that you can never go back. You kind of get the language that you suit you, that makes you feel comfortable. Humans like comfort. When we went out shooting, we were looking for food, and then got some water, and then go back to the cave, you like to snuggle up in the dry corner. It was just one of them things that's built into us. And it's like humans will always take the more comfortable route. I will take the comfortable side. I will take the line that is the least resistance, and I will get the thing done or whatever. And then there are people that are going, no, I have to do I have to take this, climb Everest just to get the shot.
Yeah.
But I would be of the opinion that I like my language to be comfortable, friendly, analyzing, always questioning, always
Yeah.
questioning. But I realized the thing many years ago was when an artist paints a picture and he's finished and he's happy and he's standing back and he's looking at his easel and he's going, that picture of Jerry is just lovely. I love it. It's great. It's finished. Then he takes his brush and he goes, that's it. That's the end of it. It's finished. It's done. And I love that when I do my photographs on whatever program I'm using, when I'm finished and I finish the photograph, that's it. I'm not going back. I'm not. Somebody comes up and says, "Oh, do you know you can use this filter and you can use that filter?" And I'm going, "No, I'm happy." I sat here, I opened the file, I looked at the picture, I did what I needed to do, I gave it a name, and I saved it. And that's it. And that's me. And that's finito. That's my language, is get it done right to satisfy yourself.
Right.
Keep
But Robert,
yourself.
is this art making? Is art making, like one guy says there is no self-expression, another guy says I'm just a vehicle. Is art making photography more self-expression? And I'm talking about art in general. Is it more self-expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever culture or technology is dominant? So like you go to Finnegan's Wake, is it more self-expression for Joyce or more he's a vehicle for what he's listening to shortwave radio in Paris in the 20s and writing it down? I know it's both and it depends, but just your general thought on that.
Mm, it's a good breakdown of what you're saying, Jerry, because I think, honestly, you can be a vehicle. And I think if you have this ability to flip, see, the way I look at it is this, is if I'm a painter and I paint a boat, but all I do is boat. That's it. Morning, noon, and night, I just paint a boat, a blue boat in the water, and that's it. Everyone will say, there's the guy that paints the blue boat. But if I can paint a portrait, a landscape, a cityscape, or something like that, I'm a multi-talented person. But being multi-talented means you're more open to more discretion than you would ever be as the person who paints the boat. So me painting the blue boat, I can only ever be questioned on blue boats. Whereas if you're an artist and you're thinking, am I the vehicle or am I? What do I? You have to be able to flip between one and the other very quickly. When Joyce was doing Finnegan's Wake, obviously 17 years, Jerry, what an immense amount of time. And you could theoretically think, oh, give it up. James, stop. It's not going to work. Give it up. Whatever, it's too bloody long. You should have had that done 16 years ago. But he stuck with it. His conviction made him stick with it. His convictions proved to him in his mind every morning when he got up to go and write Finnegan's Wake. Yeah, I'm still doing it. My conviction is there. I am the vehicle. I am the vessel that's actually putting this here. And I know that in years to come, and he did say this, that years to come, people will still be analysing Finnegan's Wake, that in years to come, it will still be talked about. It will still be analysed. Now, to get to that level of consciousness where you're aware that these things are happening, that you're able to influence. Remember, now, artists influence as much as they do shock and awe and whatever, but they influence as well. The likes of Caravaggio would have influenced his style, and they took the style from someone else, and there was all that about influencing here, there, and everywhere. And when you're, as a photographer, you've been influenced by Henri Cartier-Bresson, Robert Capa, whatever. You're being influenced very slightly, but it's working. And it makes it work because when I finish my picture, I know it's not going to be an Henri Cartier-Bresson, it's going to be, a Robert French one, it's not that. But you're looking at it kind of going, it could nearly be.
Yeah.
So with humans, there's always that little tiny word in the back of your head, might. Just might be. But when you get to that level, you can say, yeah, I'm conscious of what I'm doing. I'm conscious of the fact now that I'm making it look like this. It makes it appear that what I'm doing is right. What I'm doing is correct. What I'm doing is, people like it.
Yeah.
Don't know if that's answered your
That's Rob.
question, Jerry.
No, it answered it well, and it evoked Harold Bloom's book, Anxiety of Influence, and a lot of what we study. But one more follow-up to that, Robert, is can art making be egoless?
Can what, Jerry?
Can art making, photography, painting, writing, can art making be egoless without ego?
No, absolutely not. I'll give you an example of why. I have a very good friend here now, and he works for the Cork Examiner and the Evening Echo and all that. He's a great press photographer and a lovely, lovely man. Very small man, actually. But he's great, and he does his job really, really well. And Howard is his name. And I said to him one day, now we were up, I was loving my job because I was just fluting around, doing what I wanted, going where I wanted, taking what I wanted. I just loved it. But he had to do his work. He had to line the people up to get the picture. He had to get the names and blah, 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 blah. So I got a quiet moment and I was talking to him and I says, hey, Howard, you don't mind me asking? I says, do you like this job? I do, he says. I love it. He says, it's great. But it's not art. And I said, what do you mean? Sure, you've taken a picture of a group of people standing there, and you've got their name. Nah, that's just rote. He says, I just do that all the time. He says, that's not art. What you're doing is art. And I've gone, well, I'm not really an art. I'm just taking pictures. No, he says, what you're doing whatever you want. I can't, he says. My hands are tied. And I was like, but you're a journalist. Well, I said, my hands are tied. If I go back to my editor with one of your pictures, he says, he'd throw me out the door. And I never thought of it like that. I never thought that artistically, you can't be a newspaper photographer. Only Cartier Bresson did thousands and thousands and thousands of photos all over the world. They were all artistic. They were all pure art. It was like art that he did. And you're like, ah, so that's how it is. I would love to be that type of person. Like I remember many, many years ago reading about Henry Cartier Bresson, and I wondered, that lucky git, look at the picture he got. So lucky. He just there, snapped the picture. But it turned out not to be. When I read into it, and I read the biography and I read the books and all that, and it turned out that it was a little different to what I expected it to be. He would spend weeks, sometimes months, in the same position, with his scene set up, framed, as you said, Jerry, and he waited for the little person to creep in, and then he'd snap. And that was months. And I never knew that. And I was like, no. It was a shocking moment because when I read the books, well, most of the photo books, I thought, look, lucky git, look. Oh, so lucky. Lucky. No, that was months and months of work.
There's an old saying, the more you practice, the luckier you get. So Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. And he says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you've turned into a strength.
I'm not sure if I really have one, Jerry. Like when I came down here to Cork first, of course it was a big city. I wasn't used to it, coming from the country and all that. Like, and then when I started the street photography, yeah, it's nerve-wracking. It absolutely is nerve-wracking. You don't know whether you're going to get punched in the face or if someone's going to come up and steal your camera or someone going to get you arrested. You just don't know if these things will happen. So when you press the shutter, you take a chance. Yeah, absolute chance. So I developed little skills and tricks for my street photography the last 4.5 years that have stood to me this day. One of the tricks that I use is if you want to take a picture of somebody coming walking towards you, yeah, you take your camera and you put it up and you go, and the person will be just in frame, snap, but you keep the camera there until the person walks past. So the person looks around and goes, what was he looking at? You got the picture that you wanted. And it's a trick. And it works so well. And it absolutely, I've done it many, many, many times. And it's been great for me. And you just, it's just lovely. The other trick we do is if you stand on a street corner for more than 3 minutes, just stand there. Don't do anything, just stand there. You become invisible.
Yeah.
People just walk past. 5 minutes later, you're nothing. You don't even exist there. And you can snap away to your heart's content. It's absolutely wonderful. So I'd say getting over those little bit of insecurities when you're trying to take a picture of a pure stranger, somebody you've never met in your life. I mean, there was a guy in Cork now. He's 7 foot, Jerry. He's a monster. And he wears a cowboy hat. And he walks through, every now and again, he'll walk through town with a cowboy hat on him. And he's 7 foot tall. And he's looking down on people. Like, oh my God. So I took a picture of him one day. And I did that trick. And I'm like, and he walked and he looked down at me as he was passing, right? And then he looked back to see what I was looking at. And I was like, got the shot. But he was a monster, absolute monster now. I've never actually spoken to him, but he's just huge guy. But you're kind of going, is this guy going to batter my head in or what? Or, you just don't know with that level of thing that you're doing. Like, it's not like you walk into a shop and you go to a shopkeeper, give me a shirt. It's fine, it's not, it's different. It's a different story to that. So I'd say getting over those sort of insecurities makes you much better. And the other thing I found is when you go to like a book reading or an art gallery or something, or an exhibition or something like that, make a beeline for the artist. Boom. laser focus, get in, get the artist in your range, absolutely 100% in the beginning. Don't leave it to the end, because someone else will. Yeah. Don't wait until halfway through, nothing. Straight in, beeline, boom, get the artist.
Yes, Robert, I've always appreciated your questions in the wake readings and your attitudes in that approach right there. So just a couple more. Thornton Wilder, who was actually a great playwright in America and was highly influenced by Finnegan's Wake, he said, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this, but what's it really all about for you, Robert?
Well, Jerry, to be honest, family.
Yeah.
Always first, always number one, family. It has to be. It cannot be anything else. It cannot be my it cannot be my books or whatever, anything like that. No. They're secondary. But they're secondary to enjoy. Like when we're reading, Jerry, I love it. It's great. Like I told you before that when I was very sick last year and I decided I'd come along to Finnegan's Wake to read, I was just barely able to sit up. Couldn't, like an hour and a half, I was actually shattered, completely shattered in between taking tablets and whatever and all that. I was just barely able to, but I stuck with it. And 6 months later, I'm still here and I'm still doing it. I still love it. And I'm hoping that, you just pray to God that you're actually getting the right words out of the page or the book or whatever. And yeah, we screw it up all the time. We just say the wrong line or whatever, but who cares? It's the fact that we're all together there and we're all doing it our own way makes it hugely, hugely different. And I love that. And I think that's part of it, but that's a secondary. It always has to be secondary to your family. And whatever's happening in your family, in your home, in your house, or with work or whatever, they're the things that you have to concentrate on. And of course, the book, yeah, that'll come later. Photography, yeah, that'll be later. But you enjoy them in a much, much better way if your family is safe, if your family is happy, if your family is doing well, and you do enjoy it to a certain extent that you go, yeah, I don't mind going down to the park today to take pictures of the ducks. It's just one of them things is, for me, it would be family first, photography second, books third.
Wow.
Like I'm always looking for an opportunity. It doesn't matter where I'm going to be. Yeah.
That really resonates with me a lot, Robert. I appreciate that because you started as what's the best thing for a human being? Companionship. And they asked Harold Bloom before he died, what's the greatest activity in life? And he says, who you marry and what they read, which I thought was really funny because he's basically saying companionship, the people who are close to you, the people you want to be close to you, your family, your friends. So just a couple more and we're out of here. Thank you so much, Robert. This has really been enlightening. What's the cultural shift that inspires you today, that you gravitate towards, that,
Okay. Well, I know cultural changes every 7 years. So if you multiply that up, after when you're 21 years old, you'll have 3 cultural changes gone through. By the age of 41, 51, whatever, you'll have more cultural changes. Now, cultural change is good, but I think today, culturally, we're in such a quagmire. Lovely word there, Jerry, quagmire. We're such a quagmire of differing opinions. But as I said earlier, different opinions being pushed. Like today, we cannot trust the media. Absolutely not in a fit. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible that I can't go on and go, oh yes, there's the news and the news is saying this. And I know that's going to be fake. It's going to be later on. Somebody will say, "Oh no, this is bad." Like recently, the invasion of Ukraine, they put up pictures of some buildings that had been bombed, and then a few days later, somebody said, "That's not Ukraine. That's Syria." And I was like, "Really?" And you're being bluffed and you're being pulled and twisted every single minute of every day. And I think it's because of media. I remember back a few years ago, I had to get my phone fixed. So I went to town, I dropped in the phone. I said to him, "Man, here it is. There's the code." I says, "Just fix it up, get the new battery, whatever." And he says, "Yeah, that'll be a few days." And I says, "Okay, Grant." So between the jigs and the reels, I dropped it in on Monday. It was the following week, Wednesday, a week and a half, that I went back up to collect my phone. In that week and a half, Jerry, no internet, no Facebook, no nothing. I was completely and utterly detoxed, and I flipping loved it. I was
Yeah.
happier than I had ever been. I, I didn't care about, oh my God, you have to check Facebook, get your updates, update status, nothing. It was just so good. And that was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, we need to do this so much now.
Yeah.
We need to detox. We need to digitally detox so much. It's unbelievable. If we don't, like when we go to the city, Jerry, to take pictures, there's certain places in the city where young people hang around. Like one of them is Dawn Square, and there's Parnell Place and all the different places. Now, if I go to the city tomorrow, and I go head up there and I bring my camera up with me, and there's young people in this square, not a single one of them will have their head up.
Yeah.
They'll all be.
So, yeah.
So I'm not really interested in taking pictures of the tops of their heads. Or 40 teenagers just bowed into their phones, and it's such, oh my God, it's so bad. From what I was doing when I was growing up, we never had that, and it was life. It was real life. It was brilliant. And if you
We were
wanted to
looking
send
at
somebody a
clouds,
message,
like we were doing what
here,
my parents said, look at the clouds and there's your art museum. It's a constantly changing, Jackson Pollock and Salvador Dali. So, Robert, I'm out of here. I really appreciate this. But in the final question, and I hope our discussion goes on, and usually does every week, we read Finnegan's Wake together with an amazing group, and we encourage everybody to join us at Sweeney's. What gives you the most optimism?
honestly, Jerry, that's a question an answer I've made before, and it's my family.
Yeah.
And they have been brilliant through all of what we've gone through, everything, every single thing. And it's been shocking to see that resilience. And you're like, oh my God, he did that, and it's great. And it's great to see that. But as you said about cultural change and stuff like that, it all moves on and on and on and on and on. And I believe that everything goes to a certain extent, and then there's a change. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good, but 9 times out of 10, it'll be a good change and something will happen. And I love the idea that my family are, well, they're not independent yet. They will be, and they will do well, and they will have greater appreciation for stuff. And I hope that all I can hope for is that I have transferred a tiny little bit of my dignity, my enthusiasm for photography, my enthusiasm for reading books, and just that little bit. And years later down the line, if one of my children pick up a camera and go, "Oh, I took a lovely picture today," yeah, I'll be happy. It's
Yeah.
all you can. It's all you can hope for. It's all you can do. And my photos that I leave behind here, yeah, it's all you can do.
It's really been fun, Robert. Yeah. And I hope they continue to use the pen, the book, all the tools we have, and especially the hugs. So make sure you give your lovely family a big hug from me. And I send
I will
you
indeed.
a hug through the phone lines. My hands are reaching out and hugging you. Thank you so much, Robert. This has really been fun, and I really appreciate it.
Delighted to help, Jerry. Delighted to help, and it's great. Love the questions. Love them. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Love you.